UFC on ESPN 41. This is going to be in San Diego at the Pechanga Arena. No, I know what you're about to say. No, this is not the makeup to the Tachi Palace. But it's going to be in San Diego, California, the Pechanga Arena.
Inside the whale's vagina.
Is that some kind of joke I'm supposed to get?
San Diego. Oh, you haven't seen Anchorman?
No, I've never seen Anchorman.
Oh, that's like the low-fruit Anchorman joke that you
in a whale's vagina?
San Diego. Yeah, okay. I just spoiled it, too. You know?
There's an E there, not an A. Marlon Vera, Chito Vera, in the main event taking on Dominick Cruz. Interesting space where they both find themselves. Just a recap here. Chito Vera, by the way, just 29 years old. I think folks sleep on that because he's been around for a while. He's on a 3-fight win streak over Davey Grant, Frankie Edgar, who he stopped with that vicious front kick, and then kind of just had that amazing, brutal fight with Rob Font, but mostly brutal in the end in terms of what the damage was that Rob Font had to suffer. Dominick Cruz enters this contest 36 BC. He's also, however, on a bit of a win streak. He lost to Cody Garbrandt and Henry Cejudo. We know that in 2016 and then came back in 2020. But then since then, he's beaten Casey Kenny and Pedro Munoz. They are ranked respectively at the current moment, at the time of this recording, at 5 for Chito Vera, at 8 for Dominick Cruz. BC, it feels like, I'm not going to say a setup fight for Chito, but at 29, the momentum's in his direction. Feels like the UFC is giving him a tough, good name.
Yes.
Tough opponent, but the kind of one he should be able to both defeat and then use the name, star power to advance.
Get the rub, as they would say in pro wrestling. I really like this fight. I believe either guy has a chance to win, certainly. I agree with you that Vera's not only the hotter, stock at the moment, but gets an opportunity, if he gets this done, to really make a leap. Not necessarily to the front of the line and get into that title position, but he ain't that far because Luke, shout out to a great actor, Oscar Isaac. He was, you know him?
I know the name.
Yeah, he was in Dune. Dude, I watched Dune again last night after a long DM exchange with Web Scream.
Oh, he's the dude from
the most violent year. Because for Chito Vera, Luke, it has been a most
Moon Knight.
Violent year. But this is getting that cred, that name. You got a name like a former champion, Dom Cruz, who still has it and has shown that on this 2-fight win streak. I've been ready to retire him, not in a mean way, but in the step-ups, the Casey Kenny. Who was the last fight for Dom?
Dom's last win, I think, I just had it up here. His last win was Pedro Munoz.
In each of those, I thought he could lose. He came over the top. He's been able to sustain himself at this age, never had big power. Was that going to hurt him when the speed slowed down? Well, it hasn't yet. This is the matchup where it could. And I think for Chito Vera, there's just been an extra spice to him. There's something electric about what he's doing right now. It's a next level step up into confidence. He learned something from that Aldo loss, right? That was going to be potentially his moment. Kind of like this, a little different. Aldo still had a lot left, and you showed that. But the way he's bounced back, he looks ready to join that group in the title picture, Luke. Going through Dom Cruz to get there. It won't be easy, but as we sort of laid out off the start, skill versus skill, stock versus stock, where we're at, I like Chito's chances in this, but he's going to have to earn it, Luke. Okay? Dom's stubborn as shit right now.
And tough. Very, very tough. One of the things that's not talked about with Dominick Cruz is he's hard to, yes, Garbrandt obviously was able to style on him a little bit, but in general, he's a hard dude to consistently hurt, hard dude to stop. Even the time that Cejudo got away with it, there is, I thought the stoppage was fine, but, Cruz was just that mindset he has where he was making fun of Keith Peterson for smelling like booze and cigarettes, which we have yet to confirm.
It may be cheap women, too. I usually add that in at the end. I mean, the smells are close.
Have you seen the video of Keith Peterson singing?
No. Is it?
It's out there. It's out there.
Was that nickname No Nonsense given to him by John Anik? Or did he just popularize it?
No, yeah, I think that's an Anik creation, which is a fair one, but nevertheless, from him. Here's what stands with me, BC. I think Chito Vera, you can really, he's at the foreground of this, I'm going to call it slowly emerging push from Spanish-speaking Latin America, because the Brazilians are always been leaders of the pack. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with for generations to come. We already know about what they offer. By the way, UFC announcing today that they're going to go back to Rio de Janeiro in...
I've never heard you call it Rio.
It's Rio. But here's the thing. Like, you talk to the Brazilian dudes, they say it's Rio. So I don't even know how it's supposed to be pronounced anymore.
Right. The King of Rio?
The King... King of Rio sounds a lot cooler. They're going to go back there. They haven't been back in a while. They're going to go back now. So we already know what kind of role they play in mixed martial arts, both past, present, and potentially in the future as well. The Spanish-speaking side of it is slowly coming along. Chito, just 29 years old, has a ton of experience. And I feel like one thing we haven't talked about here for briefly is that he was with Colin Oyama for a long time, who I have a great respect for. Listen, sometimes the training relationships, they run their course. They don't work anymore. People are due for a change. People go to Colin Oyama from other teams and they get lifted up. He went to Jason Perillo, and it just seems like they made the things with his striking a little bit sharper.
Yeah.
He's really devastating with his Muay Thai now. His kicks in particular, kicking range, he is brutal. And dude, we say it all the time. Like it's not necessarily the thing you have to have in fighting Dominick Cruz per se. Chito Vera's durability is some of the best I've ever seen in all of MMA, aided by the fact that he's in his 20s. But nevertheless, Rob Font was good until Chito Vera's overwhelming force was simply too much for him. I wonder if something similar, although Cruz is a very different game than Rob Font, might happen.
It's not an apples-to-apples comparison, and let's always put respect on what Jorge Masvidal did in that great comeback year and the spirit he carried, but there's a little bit of that edge that I feel with Chito right now.
Yeah.
And maybe that just means I'm so confident I've ironed out whatever I've identified as the things that had slowed me down and prevented me from getting over that hump in the big showdown against Aldo. But it's just like, how do you identify what has changed? I mean, you won't know unless you're in his head, but
just a little sharper, he seems like. Everything's a tick sharper. He understands his assignment more. He makes better decisions. I think they've made some of his, again, I think the striking has been a little bit ironed out.
He's mean, too. He fights mean.
He's fucking mean, dude, in all the good ways of being mean. He is vicious now. And so, and by the way, I think he also has, he always had good confidence. I think he really believes he can be a champion in this weight class, which BC leads me to this. Now, here's the thing. We've talked about this. Jan is going to be fighting O'Malley. That's 1 versus 13. Yeah. Who the hell knows what's going to happen there? Dillashaw is going to be fighting Sterling. Who the hell knows what's going to happen there? We have Aldo versus Merab, not this weekend, but the following.
I love this division.
Right. And so after that is where kind of Font is, who has already been beaten.
I have the name for you if he wins this. I have it.
What
ready.
do you think?
Cory Sandhagen.
So Sandhagen's got the fight against Yadong coming up.
My dog? Song. Sorry, I just had a little. Sorry, let's just rewind, okay? Let's just, okay. Thank you.
People think I don't like your humor. I actually like your humor. I'm just your best editor. I just take out the crap.
Thank you. That would have been a good matchup for him. No, he's in a great spot if he gets a win here, especially with the close-up variety of being a main event here. But this is the deepest division in the sport. It's the hardest to make that leap. He'd make a good leap here, but he's going to have to fight another hammer, Luke, to truly enter that title picture. And whether that's a star coming down in a loss off of these fights or it's somebody that bumps up with a win. How soon is the Sandhagen fight?
I don't have it in front of me.
He's at the level where he would face the winner of that, would you say? Or are you thinking higher?
Well, here's the thing. It's like with all that shuffling, it's hard to know what's going to happen at bantamweight. I would not think that beating the number 8 guy would get you a title shot, especially when you're already sitting at 5.
No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about
so the question is, does it put you in the fight that if you win that one, does it get you there? So Sandhagen's next fight is going to be September 17th, so that's coming right behind you. You're right. So if Sandhagen wins that one, Sandhagen versus Cheeto, again, we're kind of burying Dominick Cruz here. Cruz, I'm sure, has designs on winning, but I think, I pull up the odds here. I'm going to imagine that Chito Vera is going to be your overwhelming favorite.
How about a minus 275 favor?
Close. Very close. Very good guess. Chito Vera sitting currently from our friends at Caesars at about a minus 240, plus 200 for Cruz. That sounds about right. Cruz is tough to put away. 5-round main event. Both guys have good cardio.
And it always stands in a division like this, like we were just at with light heavyweight, where one great performance out of all these great fights that are lined up. Maybe sometimes somebody who has the best performance can make that leap. I don't even think that's the case in the opportunity for either guy in this fight, but you're close enough to be knocking on that door. Damn, there's going to be great fight. I mean, the only one who can really do that, I think, is O'Malley. If O'Malley beats Jan, it's like star-wise.
Shakes up everything, yeah.
It's time, Luke, right? Is he going right to the top if he wins that? No one
seems to me he would.
And when I'm not leaning in the direction of saying he's definitely going to win. I don't know. It's another great fight, but what a time for this division. Since it's passed lightweight in the last year and a half as the best division in the sport. People hate that on podcasts. We always have to quantify everything with its, but would you call this historically deep at the moment? This division?
Yes,
it would go that far.
Deep.
You would go that far.
This is. We'll have to see what happens in the future, but if we're just examining the history of bantamweight, certainly this is the very best version of it by a million miles. It's not even close. Even the WEC versions, people romanticize, but no, it wasn't.
People get mad that when we say the letters WEC, we don't bring up Miguel Torres because he was a stud back then.
He was a stud
before that bad incident. He was a stud.
Yeah, although he had the Brian Bowles fight didn't go his way. There's a couple times it didn't. BC, what about Cruz? What if he wins here? 36 years old. I think people are admiring what he's done. And again, we could all totally be wrong. I don't get the sense, though, that there's a lot of belief that he could really climb back to a title. And he would say, well, no one believed that on my 2 previous absences from the ring and everything that happened due to injury. Still, it feels like he still had a lead on the division despite those long absences, and then coming back and beating Takeya Mizukaki in the way he did
What
was
he's done
impressive.
can we give him his props? What he's done to
He's very competitive. I mean, listen, these odds are they're not super far apart. I'm just pointing out, I think it's unlikely. However, if he did win, I wonder about that commentator beating a top 5 guy. That would be a bit of a shakeup as well.
That would be huge. But let's not forget also that Mr. Faber was, when he lost to Jan, he was like, right there again to get another big title shot. So his name would get him very far, but this would be 3 wins in a row. This would be by easily the best on that list. It would just, I think, just be more sprinkling on top of this guy's legacy. Is going to age like a fine wine because he's already was a champion. He was dominant in his first run, but the constant comebacks just show the mettle. I mean, he is unnaturally tough and determined and disciplined. Some of his interviews, like the long ones with Ariel, he's done, are some of the best MMA interviews I've ever seen. The guy is the most inspirational yet like darkly stubborn. And I say darkly like it's the fuel. It produces the fuel that allows him to do this, which is keep coming back and staying relevant. Luke, he does not have a style that would age well. Yet he's aging perfectly fine. If he gets this win, it's just adding to that legend. I love everything about Dominick Cruz. I swear. Even when he's prickly, Luke, because, man, he has taken his hand he was dealt and overachieved time and again. You'd have to admit that. He's a magician.
He did, but the thing is, he invented a style of footwork that is unusual. And for a time, it allowed him to have a lead on the game. And I think the game has caught up to the point where that style of fighting, it can still be winnable, but it doesn't represent what it used to, which was this, he was a far advanced guy. There's just a greater awareness about striking fundamentals and skill in a way that doesn't translate over the same way. So to get a win even now would represent something kind of new, because to have this sort of like weird style that the game doesn't really know what to do with now, where everyone kind of seems like they do, that's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting fight. I'm curious to see how it goes.